Thank you, and thanks for the juxtaposition as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we are indeed working with OpenAI, and welcome. Hi, my name's Amy Warner-May, and I'm Associate Director at the Bodleian Libraries, University of Oxford, and this is my colleague Megan Gooch, who's Head of the Centre for Digital Scholarship at the Bodleian, and we're here to talk about our project working with OpenAI. I was the project sponsor, and Megan was the project owner. And I'm going to pass over to Megan.
Thanks. So we gave this quite a deliberately provocative title because people were asking us this kind of thing. But the question we're getting is, so you're working with big tech? And the answer is yes. Some of you may have seen this announcement that the University of Oxford were launching a 5-year collaboration, and that was announced in March. And what the Bodleian were part of, we were a part of this agreement, and we were funded to do a research project that was actually part of this wider university partnership. So there's more going on above the library for longer than we're working in the library. You may have also seen this, which was an announcement in September that the university has also made ChatGPT Edu licenses available to all students, actually, and staff, including professional services. But we're going to have to say, don't ask us questions about this, as it's not actually something the library were involved in negotiating or delivering. So if you do have questions, we can point you in the right direction, but we don't know all the answers. We're here today to reflect on our journey with AI. But this isn't the first time the Bodleian, and actually many colleagues in the room and online, have worked with big tech. I love that this article has this article is more than 21 years old thing here, which was the Bodleian, one of the first libraries, the big 5, to work as library partners with Google Books. And that was in 2004. And by the way, read this article. It talks about people fear a new service called Gmail. And also, there was an online shopping service called Frugal. Remember that? I don't. So, are you on this one?
This is me. Yeah, so keep clicking. Yes, so the partnership didn't come out of the blue for us at the Bodleian, and here you can see some of the questions that our library staff were asking, and I think your question was great there around sort of transcription softwares, etc., because actually we were thinking about a number of different questions in the areas of AI, but different aspects of AI and different questions, and how these might work for us. And our strategy is really clustered in 3 areas, so AI and library services, AI and collections, AI and operating a library. Well, our strategy is collections, library services, and transforming our ways of working. And the questions that we were getting around AI were clustered in those 3 areas. So you can see ones around who owns our AI-created work, how can AI tools be used to streamline processes, but also how is AI changing how our readers engage with content? So these were the types of questions that we were grappling with. And this is me as well. So why did we look to go into this partnership with OpenAI? Practically, there were some benefits for us. So we have a university strategic aim to digitise at scale. And how we do that, we need to explore all opportunities. So we were looking at partnering in terms of there was equipment opportunities, content, the content was being created, new data, and also new knowledge coming out of that. So we were gaining a new corpus of knowledge, and that was a priority for us. We were also looking at our goals as the library, and here you can see the goals which are in our strategy. And all of these really we felt could be benefited by the partnership that we have. And here you can see below a quote from Patrick Grant, who's our Pro Vice Chancellor for Research, and who chairs our Bodleian board curators. And he was just talking really about how the university wants to be or aims to be at the forefront of AI research. And that was one of the rationales for the partnership. And we felt that supporting and working with that in the Bodleian was really important in ensuring that we remained at the forefront of academic teaching and research. We also felt it was important to think about, and what hopefully we'll cover off in this presentation, is some of the difficult questions around engagement with AI. And we felt that that was important to be doing that within the information sector. And finally, we thought that there were opportunities, but also challenges around the sustainable operation of the libraries.
But it's not just tech partnerships that we're involved in. We've been a member of the Google Books Library Partnerships, sort of consortium or group, since we started. And some of us were at their partnership summit meeting in October. As part of the OpenAI work, we meet regularly with Boston Public Library, Harvard Law Library, and the Harvard Institutional Data Initiative to talk about the work that we're doing, funded by OpenAI, around digitization. But we're also part of those other library groups, LIBA, which for the museum folks is the European group of Research Libraries UK, and SCONAL. So partnerships are key, but not just one, and not just with tech. So what was this pilot that we actually did? The first thing to mention is that we undertook this pilot as research. The money came in as research income, and to do that, according to the university regulations, it would have to meet the Frascati definition of research, in that it was novel, creative, uncertain, systematic, and there was some level of reproducibility. And that uncertainty was key. We weren't asking how can AI help us in our library work, we were asking can AI help us in our library work. And we looked at 5 different areas. The first area was actually, 4 of the areas were very, very un-AI, to be honest, but 5 of the areas. The first one was really thinking about how we could scale up digitization in our imaging studio. The second was the most AI-ish of them all, and our colleague Neil Jeffries will be speaking, or is he speaking? There's definitely a poster. There's a poster, go and check it out. It's right by the front door because he got there first, about using AI to test the generation of metadata or metadata enrichment, and also looking at transcriptions. We did a collections audit to understand if we could digitize at scale, and if perhaps tech or other partners wanted to fund that, how many books could we actually digitize that were out of copyright, accessible, and not too old in a way that made our curators and conservators get the heebie-jeebies? We also looked at scaling digitization in a new facility, in our book storage facility, that's our big warehouse, and we looked about ingesting and publishing the results of our newly digitized items on digital Bodleian, but also thinking about how AI might change our users' behavior around search and discovery. So how did we do? We scanned, photographed actually 350,000 pages of global dissertations in our imaging studio. You can look at Neil's poster to hear more about metadata and transcriptions, but there was a lot of testing with some of our collections management and resource description experts. We discovered that there were about 750,000 items that were potential candidates for digitization at scale, and we scanned 1.1 million pages in our book storage facility, a facility that prior to February this year had no scanning capacity whatsoever. And we have a new digitization assistant to help us make that publicly available. But how are we measuring success in this? Because this is important, and we got a lot of questions, both about that wider partnership, but also this particular pilot, from our staff, our students, staff in the library, staff in the university. We had academics assuming that we were trying to replace people with chatbots. It was absolutely not part of this pilot, so it's absolutely not in scope. So we got a real testing from our non-executive board called Curators of the University Library. So we developed 2 ways of testing. One is testing the success of the pilot. What have we learnt about AI? And that learning is important because, again, Bodleian staff were saying, well, what new workflows are you implementing? It's like, well, we're not. We're testing what is possible. Workflow development and implementation may follow, but only if we find out that it's successful. So we're asking questions about the pilot there. But also we're asking questions about the partnership. Is it a strategic fit? And I think that fits to the keynote's point around innovation. Innovation is lovely, but if you're just following the hype for hype's sake and not making strategic decisions, then we're just going off course. Is it operationally feasible? Does it have a financial impact? Sometimes partnerships look great, but actually create more work behind the scenes. There's a reputational risk. Sometimes people take funding from philanthropists, governments, other agencies, and tech companies, what is the reputational risk or perceived reputational risk, and the ethical considerations. We have been very, very well tested on the environmental and intellectual and accessibility considerations around working with an AI company. But part of the research we also had funded was a survey to see what other people were doing in the sector, because one thing that we love doing in cultural heritage is the fun stuff and developing new things without sometimes looking out and seeing what's possible. And I've just got two highlights from the survey that we did of libraries. We got 399 responses. They were mostly from research libraries, some public libraries, some institutional libraries such as NHS, that's health service, and corporates, but mostly research or academic libraries. And two of the questions we asked them were about what would you like your leadership to know? And they said, we would like you to use it ethically and be people-centric. They said, we would like you to invest both in expertise but also in infrastructure, because it's lovely if you've got all people doing it, but if the infrastructure is secretly failing, that's no use to us. They wanted us to be able to articulate the USP in the role of knowledge creation. Libraries have been doing knowledge creation, information management, managing data for centuries. Does AI change the game, or do we have a unique role in that? We would say the latter. And again, back to our keynote, balance the hype with reality. Can AI really do this, or are you just getting excited about it? We also asked people what you're not telling your leadership, which was slightly more a difficult question. And I will say thanks to the researcher who worked on this, Charlotte Ertel, who framed these questions. They said that they're not telling people that they're worried about hype and leaders getting carried away with it, and they're disillusioned by this. They said that some people just fundamentally oppose the ethics of AI and are not convinced by any of the arguments that this is a right or morally good thing to be doing at all. Staff fear losing their jobs or having their jobs changed beyond all recognition. They didn't go to library school to do this. That there are hidden costs of AI, and that as a sector under financial constraints we have problems. And some fear being labelled resistant to change if they critique AI. They don't feel that they can be that voice to have an open conversation.
Yeah, so another priority for us within the Bodleian related to the project, well, so we were doing the OpenAI project, but we were also working on a number of other AI initiatives, and I think that's important to remember that this wasn't the only thing that we were doing. And we were also trying to work really closely with our staff, and I think sort of responding to that, or trying to address some of the concerns which Megan was just raising. And we have an AI competency centre within the university. We also have an AI community of practice within the libraries. And here we're really looking to just encourage staff to try tools, not just ChatGPT, but a whole suite of different tools to see what AI can achieve. And I mean, we've got some examples on the screen, but there was another one that just came to me the other week, which was our health and safety lead, who is not very techie, is using AI, using generative transformers in AI chatbots to make text adventure training scenarios to provide health and safety training. And I think it's just really fascinating to hear about the types of use cases that we're seeing. So we wanted to harness the opportunities here, but in a responsible way. And another priority, I think, was to engage with all staff, not just staff who want to be in a community of practice or are early adopters. And so we have run sessions where we're encouraging all staff and also encouraging staff who may be more cautious to speak out. But I think that's something we continually need to think about how to support that. Okay. So we do have concerns, and here we have a whirlpool of concerns, and I'm just going to pull out some of them. So reputational risk, obviously working with big tech companies, there is reputational questions, reputational challenges. We need to think about how to manage those, both within the Bodleian but also within the wider university. And I think here, as Megan said, the role of our non-exec board curators is really important. Also, equity of access. We're really fortunate that we can offer different AI tools, but we need to think about how we can support different levels of access to different users, or what can we do in that space? Cognitive offloading. This is a worry, as Megan was saying. We've got very skilled staff, subject librarians, cataloguers, and how do we harness their skills and retain that knowledge? Also job security. I think with hindsight, this is something we could have, when we were managing the communications around the pilot, we could have managed that slightly more clearly, because we are not looking to make any role changes, and that was clearly something that was coming out as a concern for staff. And finally, metadata and discovery, because actually ensuring that the content that is there is discoverable and citable is really important.
I think we also encountered environmental impact as something.
We did. Sorry, I missed that.
And I quite blithely said, people are worried about the polar bears. And one of my colleagues picked me up on this and said, there was flooding in Oxford last week. People's homes are at risk. This is a climate crisis now. And actually, we ran an event in my team last week on the environmental impact of digital, not to answer all of these questions, but to start the conversation. That should be available online in the next few weeks.
Great, yeah, and a couple of further things to pull out. So I think we heard the earlier talk today, and also for us, we were also thinking about the hype cycle, and we want to avoid perhaps the peak of inflated expectations and instead try to move ahead as a silent achiever into the plateau of productivity. And so the steps that we're taking, hopefully, enable us to think about the challenges and enable us to try and take that approach, hopefully. And here we got some really excellent blog posts, which I've heard colleagues refer to, which gives some advice about, as libraries, how to engage with AI firms. And I think it's great that we're able to share that best practice, and we've been learning from this type of advice. And I think it is this comment at the bottom about leading, not following. And rather than waiting for publishers to define AI within the library, we need to be taking a proactive role. But that's difficult, yeah. Okay, finally, so what are we doing to address this within the libraries? And there are 5 areas to pull out. So first of all, governance. So within the Bodleian, we have established an AI strategy and policy group, and this has connections with the broader university governance for research and for teaching. We also have a tech council within the Bodleian, and that has connections into the university's AI Institute of AI and Ethics. So I think trying to sort of capture the experience within the university and think about what are we doing, what are the challenges, and what are the opportunities. Policy is also really important. We have developed a draft series of AI policy principles, which we've consulted really widely on within the university. I think that what we're aware of is AI is happening, students are using AI, researchers are using AI, and within the library we want to be encouraging cautious but wise engagement with AI tools. And that's what we're hoping the principles support, particularly around collections, transparency and citability. In terms of policy, we're also hosting a policy fellow from government, so thinking about how we can engage with and connect into government policy developments. Collections, we're also thinking about, as we spoke about earlier, how collections, how AI can help with our core collections management work, but also how can it make our collections available where our users potentially are going to be in terms of within services such as ChatGPT. And then our audience. So we need to be thinking about what the needs of our users are and where they are looking to find our collections and how we can ensure that we are meeting those needs. And finally, I think this relates really well to the previous keynote, which Rachel presented. Staff are absolutely critical. They're at the heart of what we do, and their expertise and knowledge is really, really key. We want to be encouraging and supporting staff to have sort of mastery and confidence using tools. And we also want to be looking at what our processes are and what our values are. And I think also thinking about what knowledge do we need to be capturing about our expertise, and what training do we need to be providing to be ensuring that perhaps knowledge or expertise that we'd previously taken for granted is not lost. Okay, thank you.
And
oh, Megan, sorry.
no, and just because I mentioned this was a research project,
Yeah.
so we will be publishing the results of this on our university repository in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
So, for these sessions, we're doing questions at the end together.
Yes.
So that gives you a chance to sit down and relax and enjoy the next talk.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Lucie Termignon. I am from the French Ministry of Culture, working on AI matters, and I am the product owner of this project, Comparia. So the best way to get to know the product and the project is to actually go to the website and test it. So the URL link is just here, comparia.beta.gov.fr, and I encourage you to go and navigate the website to really get to know the product. But I have some presentation material, and so after that, if we have time, I will show you the website deeper. So Comparia is a public, open platform launched by the French Ministry of Culture in late 2024, and it's a very simple tool, actually. The user journey is very simple. Users just ask questions of their choice. Two models answer blindly. The user then votes for the better answer, and finally discovers the identity of the models along with information on their characteristics, so who is the editors, what is the size of the model, what is the license of the models, and also what is the environmental impact of each conversation. So the tool is simple in form, but its impact has been quite significant, both in generating high-quality data sets for underrepresented languages, so non-English languages, French, but also other languages, and in raising awareness around AI's diversity, limitation, and consequences. So this is really the challenge of the project. This is a crowdsourcing human evaluation tool that serves both as a low-barrier way to collect real-world data, while also being engaging to the public and being a tool to raise awareness and hence critical thinking around those technologies. So the project, yes. We are a core team of 5 to 6 people. I am the product owner and founder of the project, and I work with a UX designer, 2 developers, so 2 back developers, and 1 front-end developers, and 1 business development manager. I insist on this diverse team because actually there were 3 challenges that we had to face. The first challenge was a technical one, so how to give access to a wide range, a wide diversity of models while keeping control on the costs, on the inference costs. A UX design challenge, so how to build a public-friendly interface and easy to use one, and how to deploy, so a deployment challenge, how to make sure that we get an audience, that people come to the platform and actually use it to build those common data sets that we want to build. So that was a challenge, but actually I can say we manage it in some way. So to date, we have more than 500,000 questions that have been asked in the platform since launch, so since a little bit more than 1 year. We have earned more than 200,000 votes, we had more than 400,000 visits, and we have been able to test more than 100 models since beginning. Comparia has also received quite large media coverage from national outlets, and it was featured in lots of podcasts or mentioned on social medias. So we have made really big efforts to build partnerships, to attend to many events, and even to organize some events to really get Comparia's the most reach it can have, and to really include as much as possible Comparia as an educational tool to raise awareness around what we want to raise awareness about, which are I'm gonna dive deeper in the raising awareness issue, but there is also another very core component of the project, which is collecting data and publishing it openly. So for the raising awareness part, the very simple act of comparing two different responses reveals a lot, often more than reading articles or watching hype unfold in the news. Comparia has become a tool for raising awareness on three fundamental issues, which are model diversity, cultural linguistic biases, and environmental impact. Concerning the model diversity, so for now we have tested more than 100 models. We have currently a little more than 40 models accessible, both open-weighted, closed ones from different sizes and from many different editors. We really try to keep the pace of the different launches from different editors, and we have made big efforts to really document and describe deeply the characteristics of the models. So Comparia, LLMs have become, everybody knows it in that room, central in public discourse, yet most people only use only one single model or only one single service, typically ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, without sometimes distinguishing the service from the models behind it. And Comparia is here as a tool to inform or remind users that there is not one only AI. There are many, and they have then can behave differently. The user can experience the fact that different models really reflect different cultural assumptions or perspectives. And from the French perspective, it echoes a broader idea of media plurality. So it's important to expose users to different perspectives, both in media but also in LLMs, actually. As for the linguistic and cultural biases, I often cite this quote this example when you ask a model about the 10 movies that most had an impact on the history of cinema, and for quite long time, most of the models really answered with American movies. So when people ask about movies, history or politics or history, it can happen that both models suggest US or Chinese-oriented answers, so it's a fact, and the point it makes clearer that we have to be aware of that and to address the challenge of of biases, cultural linguistic biases in the datasets. So both pre-training datasets and post-training datasets. And this was one of the main motivation for launching the project. So this lack of high-quality evaluation or pre-training dataset for conversation AI in France. And so one objective figure was that it was the pain point. The French language data represented only 0.16% of the training data in models like Llama 2 back in end of 2024, despite the fact that French language on the internet at the time was 3 to 5% of the contents of the internet. So it works for French, but it also works for any other non-English language, and the under-representation of non-English language implies major biases and performance issues for users who do not interact with AI in English. So this was the cultural biases part, and the environmental impacts. Well, if you make the experience, you will face this screen at the end of the experience. Sorry, the screenshot was not translated, but but the website is accessible in English. So Comparia is a tool to highlight the environmental footprint of AI inference, and when the identities of the models are revealed, an energy estimate based on the Ecologits methodology. So it's a methodology, Ecologits is funded by the Gen AI Impact Foundation. And so we use this methodology to give users a sense of the relative costs of the relative environmental costs of different models. And it usually prompts a new question about how we use AI, at what scale, and for what purposes. So it's really a starting point for users to think critically about the energy use of the tools they are using in their practical, professional, or personal matters. So, as I said, Comparia was widely used, so is widely used by teachers, by company in pedagogical contexts, and it is used either as an icebreaker or as the basis for a structured discussion. And so we have made partnerships with many educational networks or associations, and to support the ongoing educational use cases, we have even developed a specific workshop format called AI Duels, which lasts 1 hour and can be organized in classrooms. And it's an easy way to encourage small groups of people to evaluate responses and reflect on the environmental impacts of the models with information to feed the debate. But so while we quickly realized that Comparia's immediate impact was public awareness, and our initial goal was, and main focus was to collect data and share them openly. So I am going to dive deeper into that stake. All the conversations and votes on Comparia are published in open datasets, so on Hugging Face and data.gov.fr, with personal information removed. To date, we have 3 datasets. So the main datasets comprises all the conversations. Then we have the votes datasets and the reactions datasets. And those data provide a unique perspective into how a large and diverse group of users, so in that case, especially French citizen users, and so how this type of users interact with AI systems. And much of the time, it's closed data sets. So OpenAI does not publish the prompts that users are asking to ChatGPT. And this, the fact that that those conversations are shared, and those conversations are from users in free contexts, and the fact that 90% of the data is not in English, so make those data sets very valuable resource, both for model editors and researchers. For example, it's a really useful tool to observe use cases and real use from the users. So researchers in digital humanities and social science have expressed interest in studying how people use AI in practice, what questions they ask, how they phrase them, how expectations can vary across different topics. And we even got proposals for visualizing or analyzing the data sets. So for example, here you have an example of Bunka AI, which is a small startup that designed a topographical map to illustrate and analyze AI usage patterns based on the Comparia datasets. And so these datasets are also a resource for model editors. We know that developers have already used or are interested in using the data to either fine-tune models or run evaluations or do data augmentation based on the question asked, or explore direct preference optimization in French or other languages. So we know that we have more than 1,500 downloads of the data sets on Hugging Face, but it's still an ongoing process to get in touch with the model editors and to really know deeply how they use the data and how also if it is a really valuable resource for them. And so, but we also took action from our side to reuse the data. And one example of using the data is, for example, to build a ranking based on user preference. And that's what we did with a team of data scientists from the Center of Expertise for Digital Platform Regulation. So we actually built a leaderboard based on the votes we had gathered, and all the methodology is really open. We built a Bradley Terry score, and so we published it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was quite polemic because this leaderboard must really be interpreted with a lot of very carefully. We don't have any information on users, on the contexts in which the users are using the platform. And so it's just the volume of the data sets that provide an indication of general common sense, but it really cannot be taken as a robust evaluation tool at that point. But this ranking will be refined next year by taking into account different languages and allowing models to be compared according to task types or to specific topics. And that's one of the next steps for the project to really dive deeper in this evaluation part. And we will, so there is a small call for contributions from that side, in that part. We are currently in the exploration phase for this, to get deeper in this process of constructing evaluation data sets that could be useful based on the Comparia interface. And the other axe of development for next year, and that's maybe the most important part here today, is that we are scaling Comparia internationally. So actually, we are in the process of extending the platform to new languages. So we are currently working with Denmark, Sweden, Lithuania, and very soon Estonia, to open the platform to their languages. So, so the idea was that the Comparia had quite a success in France, but France is not the most underrepresented languages, and so if it works for French, it can work we think it would be very valuable for less resourced languages in Europe to get to use and spread Comparia in their own linguistic and cultural contexts. So the framework is very easy. For now, the French team take care of the technical parts. So we still keep the interface. We keep maintaining the pipeline for the datasets, for etc. And we just ask the partners to translate the contents and to make sure to take charge of the communication and outreach part. Yes, we handle the technical side, hosting, API integration, environmental estimates, datasets pipeline, and the partners help localize content and use the tool in their own context. So there is, in fact, a strong interest from countries where AI performance in the local language is poor, and we have just launched Comparia in Danish. So it was this week, actually. It's getting very, very, very fast, and they have already collected more than 700 votes, I think. So we also hope that the more data sets we gather across languages, the more leverage we have to help support multilingualism in AI models development. So, yeah, to conclude, I really want to emphasize on the fact that Comparia is a tool both to create open data sets and to build public understanding and critical thinking around these AI models. And this combination of data, comments, and public awareness raising is especially relevant in the context of GLAM institutions and cultural research. It is not about building new AI systems from scratch, but it's about shaping how AI is understood, evaluated, or maybe improved to build user trust, and make it a political conversation. So we believe this work is relevant to many other countries, languages, and contexts. And so this is my last call for action. We welcome new partners, researchers, or institutions interested in adapting or reusing the platform or the datasets. So feel free to contact us if you have any question or if you want to join the adventure in the next months. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucie. That was so fantastic, and thank you particularly for presenting in English, because obviously...
Yeah, sorry for my French accent.
No, as always, charming. So we'll get Amy and Megan up here as well. What questions do we have for our fantastic speakers?
So we've got one online to start.
Thank you, Harry.
From Paula Westenberger for Amy and Megan. Any copyright or legal challenges or strategies of the Bodleian project that the speakers would be able to share? And are the policy principles going to be made available to the public, or is it an internal document? Many thanks for a great talk.
Can I do copyright?
You do copyright, yes.
Yeah, so we have been thinking about copyright, and we've got a brilliant head of copyright and IP in the library, Chris Morrison, who's leading on this thinking. For the digitisation work we've been doing, we've been taking a sort of cop-out approach, which is not digitising anything in copyright. But we do know that most of our material and our collections is in copyright, or has got other restrictions, such as our modern archives and manuscripts material. So, yes, we are thinking of it, and I'm sure Chris knows Paula, but we haven't got any particular insight from that we can share. And on our policy.
Yeah, and I would say as well that we've also been actively involved and looking to advocate in terms of the government consultation around copyright and AI as well. So in terms of our policy, good question. Yeah, I think I see no reason why we can't share that openly. And I think we should look to do that. So yeah, absolutely.
We have a question up the back and then one here.
Thank you very much. I have a question for the Bodleian team. My name is Sebastian Majstorovic. I'm an open data consultant for Luther AI, which is a non-profit AI research lab. I was just wondering if you plan to release the outputs of the pilot project, so the out-of-copyright digitized materials as open access data sets, or whether you plan to just leave it in the digital Bodleian. Thank you.
That is a very active discussion. We are actually bringing a paper to our curators board next week, which is starting to ask those questions, and also to think about, if we were to release them, what format that would be in. So yeah, I would say, I can't say as yet, but we are really actively thinking about how we engage in a positive way with AI services, as opposed to our content just being scraped, as it were. So yeah. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, and we can provide an update.
We've got a question here and then one over there.
Yeah, hi, John Manson from Yale. This is also for Amy and Megan. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about what expectations or / restrictions were maybe on the project, given the nature of the partnership with OpenAI. What were their expectations out of the partnership going into this with you that you maybe can speak about?
Okay, so it was funded as research, and as with all research at the university, it was governed by a research contract. So because it was a research project, we couldn't agree to, and we wouldn't agree to as a university, specific outcomes. So we couldn't say, oh, we'll digitise some things and we will find out this, or we will use your tools and we will find out that. That's not what happened. There was freedom of research there. We did have an agreement about what work that we would do, and that was really about identifying sort of, as I've shown you, potential items for digitisation and for understanding the impact of tools in our workflows. And I think Neil's poster will show that we were not restricted to using a particular AI model or tool, which I think the diversity of models was really well shown here by Lucie. So we did test not just OpenAI products, we tested other products that we had access to at the university as well.
Great. Thank you. We've got a question online.
Yeah, this is from Manuela Polota-Strickland at King's College London, who says, this question for Lucie: can you tell us a bit more about the model documentation you make available to users? For example, what standards do you use? What does your documentation framework cover? Is it based on what the model developers made available to you, or do you research the model? Are you getting a sense on whether type and extent of documentation has any impact on model ranking? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Can we switch to the website part with the screen?
Go back.
Yes, perfect. So here we are on the website, and you can see here in the model list all the models included, and which so those are the active models, and you also can have all the models since the very beginning. And when I say that we make effort to document the models, I speak of those kind of descriptions. So we we base those texts on the documentation we can find on the internet. We have so now it's a framework, and everybody can actually contribute to correct things or to add other things in the descriptions. And if we have to make the framework evolve, we could do that, because we really want to construct it as a common resource, shared resources that can be improved by the community. And so. Yeah, and we do not, so if we do not get access to many informations to the models, when those models are closed, for example, then we deal with that, but it has no impact on the ranking of the model. So, yeah, I hope it answers the question.
Thank you. We've got a question up here, then one here, and then there. We'll see how we go. I love that you're all feeling more awake, but just so that you know, the coffee does start at 11.
Thank you. I will be quick. Gail Biquet from the IS International Center in Paris. I have two questions, actually. The first one for our colleagues from Oxford. The idea, I would be interested in knowing or having the approach of OpenAI in working with one of the leading research institutions in the world. It's funny you mentioned the Google Books project, because I remember, if I remember well, there was a controversy also with the Google Books project, and how, the ownership over the materials that had been digitized would be handled. So that's my question to you. And to Lucie, my question is, maybe I didn't get that well, but when users use this platform, they don't choose the model they're going to interact with. It's at random, or they choose the model they're going to interact with. Thank you.
I can take that one first. So actually, the user can choose the way the models are selected. It's here. So by default, it's random. But when the user gets acquainted to the tools, he can then start to manually select the models he want to you want to put in play. And we also have two different modes of selecting the models. The frugal one only picks models around randomly chosen around the models of small sizes. So it's more frugal from an environmental perspective. And David vs. Goliath is a very useful framework in educational contexts, because one small model is facing one big model, and so the user gets to know that the size does not always matter in the accuracy of the answers given by the models.
I love that framing around frugal and David and Goliath. Can I just check your question? You can perhaps nod, because the mic's gone away. Are you asking about the ownership of the material that we have digitized?
Yes, and also the interest that OpenAI found in, making this partnership with others. That would be, the other side of the partnership. That would be interesting to know, how this partnership has been maybe talked about, disseminated, etc.
Yeah. Just for the people on Zoom, there was the question there about who owns the material, and also what the interest might have been from OpenAI in forming this partnership. So the material that we've digitized with OpenAI is in the public domain and remains in the public domain, and is subject to no conditions. We can publish that when we're ready. But as a library, and I'm sure many of you are aware, the process from taking an image to publication is sometimes a slow one. So that will be there. And in terms of the interest, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how to... Thanks, Megan. I think it is perhaps similar to the Google discussion as well, in terms of there is an interest in data in library collections, and I think it's how we manage that as best we can in a responsible way. Does that...
Yeah, and I think we're not naive going into this. We know why people want to have access to library collections. We know that, our library, I think, has got 3%-ish of its collections digitized and therefore discoverable online. And when you talk to people who are outside of our sector, they will sort of go like, oh, like 50%, 70%. It's the same conversation you get with people in museum collections. How much is on display? 2%, roughly. We know that most of human history and prehistory is not available digitally, and tech companies as well as libraries and museums are interested in making that available, but perhaps for different reasons.
And we might have one last question with Daniel. I just wanted to say, Lucy, in case you didn't hear when you were showing the options, the audience was like, ooh, like truly amazing. So thank you. Daniel.
So I'm Daniel Van Streen from Hugging Face. So my question is a little bit following on from the keynote. So I think one of the distinctions made there was between generative AI and ML. But I think the other distinction that libraries have to start grappling with is OpenAI with no space and OpenAI with a space. So my question is, to what extent have you started exploring open models for this kind of work, and how you might approach that and kind of removing some of that reliance on one tech company or potentially a few tech companies to provide these models? And I think Lucie's work is possibly part of the answer for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're all inspired by Lucie's work. As I mentioned, some of the work that we've been doing, we haven't just been relying on OpenAI no space. We are going to have to find a better way of saying that, aren't we? But throughout the university, we've got colleagues that have been working on AI for years, decades in some cases, some the more machine learning-y types, some the more generative. So there's a lot of expertise within the university that we're also working with. I know colleagues in the library have had discussions with our visual geometry group, who've got the brilliant robots.ox.uk email address. Oh, is it Giles? Hi, Giles. But so we are working with that, and I think there is an understanding here that we don't want to rely on one tech model. I think, what is it? It's the story of the photography. Was it Fuji? That sort of, we know that if you rely on one thing, Kodak. Yeah, it fell from grace quite quickly. And I think we've all kind of looked at different technology platforms such as Twitter/X and change very radically. So testing a variety of models and approaches and actually understanding that and having, if not reproducible results with generative AI, but reproducible methodologies is really what we are thinking about. So there are very many models and model rankings, and understanding sort of what's under the hood, I think is increasingly important for us.
We've got time for one quick question coming from online. I'm sorry to people in the room who have questions, but you do have the privilege of being able to ask the speakers over coffee as well. Harry?
From Petros Astolopoulos. Thanks for these interesting presentations. I have a question for Megan and Amy on the governance model and structure they have followed in their project as it includes different stakeholders.
So we have a really quite complex, at Oxford we love complex governance models, and we start with a project team and then a project board, and then that reports into our curators body, which is our Bodleian board, and then we also have this strategy and policy group, which is more of a sort of advisory board that advises that. So yeah, we have a very robust multi-layer approach to governance. Yes.
And I think we've also done quite a lot of staff consultation and
Yes.
are really ramping that up this term as well,
Yes.
because people were worried. I mentioned about the
Yes.
environment, not just the polar bears, the flooding, the climate
Yes.
crisis. It's really interesting to see your frugal model and understanding that. So we're accountable to lots of people, and we did really think about the risks and potential risks in this project. Yes. So if anything, there's no way that Oxford is going to be under-governanced. It's so complicated.
Yes.
But yeah, happy to talk to anybody about that as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Please join me again in thanking Lucie, Amy and Megan. Wonderful.